The BearCat. Keith Lee. My bad. Limitless. Keith Lee was on the Talk is Jericho podcast this week, doing the standard issue I got released from WWE, and now I'm in AEW podcast. You've heard it a million times, and there was, of course, this one with Keith Lee. They're all interesting to hear, though. They're always interesting because you always learn something about the WWE or reinforce things that you've already heard. This podcast is just... Check out this clip and then I'll follow up.
When I was about to come back, they kind of hit me with the vision for the BearCat thing, and during that time I was like, I don't understand what that is. I'm not sure if I'm feeling that, and they brought me back just as myself. And then, I don't know, my second match, So first match, lost to Lashley. Second match, lost to Cross. In the middle of the show, Vince pulls me to a room and wants to sit down and have a talk. Vince doesn't leave his show.
In the middle of Raw?
Yeah, in the middle of Raw. Like, he's got like the semi and the main event coming up. He's just like, let's go chat. I'm like,
wow.
Dude, you're the guy on the headphones. What are you doing? But it was in that conversation. He basically was like, listen, I need you to do this. I need you to be this. And I was like, I mean, listen, I work for you. So if that's what you want, that's what we're going to do. So
it's laughable. It's laughable is what it is. The way that they, like, Keith's like, he says it perfectly too. He's like, wrestling is easy. It's simple. You go out of your way to make it complicated. WWE goes out of its way to make it complicated. He said that there was very little, if any, communication at all. He didn't know what his segment, he didn't know what his purpose was in his segments. He didn't understand the character. He was told to just go out there and growl and be mean and angry all the time. And you got to look at it two different ways, and because both of them are understandable. And I think this is where Keith Lee gets that reputation for being a bit of an ego guy or a little bit difficult to work with. It's been said before. Wade Keller says it quite a bit. He was saying that it's already, people are already commenting on it. The way that Keith Lee acts backstage in AEW. But I think what it boils down to is Keith is a bit stubborn and set in his ways, which I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with. And from the WWE perspective, especially Vince, when Vince gets a guy, he don't give a fuck who you are, where you came from, what you did, what your reputation was. He doesn't even necessarily care what your strengths are. Okay, he doesn't care that Keith Lee is a 300 plus pound man that can do ungodly things with his body. He doesn't get that he's this smooth talking, intellectual sounding powerhouse of a man, mountain of a man. There's things that make Keith Lee connect with the audience that it is just unique to Keith Lee. Vince doesn't care about any of that. He's not like a Tony Khan where he sees, hey, this guy gets over with the fans. Let's bring him in and let him get over with our fans. Do the same thing here. Like, he brings in a Danhausen and just lets him be Danhausen. Now, I will argue complete sidebar here, but I think the way that Danhausen's being used right now is dog shit. But he's also not ready to wrestle, so there's not a lot you can do for him other than just bring him in and let him be Danhausen. But with Keith Lee, I think he was very set in his ways. He's like, I'm the limitless one. This is my thing. This is my act. This is how I wrestle. And this is what I want to do. Vince, he doesn't care. You're his toy, okay? He'll see you and he'll have a vision for how he can use you. Okay? He sees a toy that he gets an idea of how he can play with that toy. He doesn't see the toy in action and go, I want to play with it like that. Like, he sees a big monster guy the size of Keith Lee. He doesn't care about what Keith Lee was. He goes, I could use a big monster mountain of a man like that to be a monster BearCat. And he's angry and he growls and he throws people around. And that's it. And he goes, this is what I want you to do. And he said, Vince pulled him aside during a show to sit with him privately and say, look, man, this is what I need from you. AJ Styles says he had that same conversation with Vince. Went out there and had a match, and Vince brought him back and said, dude, I got a million guys on my roster that can work like you. He doesn't. Nobody's can hold a candle to AJ Styles, but you get what I'm saying. Have those kind of matches. He says, what I want is a pit bull. You saw this little scrappy guy that looks like he could fight, even though he's a smaller guy, a little tough guy. And that's what he saw. I want that scrappy underdog. They just go out there and just fight. He sees it, and I want my pit bull. And AJ goes, okay, boss, I can give you that. And he goes out there and does it, and nails it. And Vince loves him. I think that's what you're signing up for in WWE. All the talent in the world can get you in that system. Possibly. Their door is pretty close to indie talent at this point. You got to be a football player. But Vince is not looking for guys that are getting over on the indies and what they're doing on the indies and how he can use that in his company. He has people that will hire, that will scout and train and hire and develop talents the way that they feel might work in the WWE system. And when they're good enough, he puts them in front of Vince. And Vince might like what he sees and he might not. And if he likes what he sees, it's not going to be necessarily based on what you've done previously, but how he sees he can use you and his fig fed in his brain. You're his toy and how he's going to play with you. Keith Lee couldn't play by those rules. And I don't know that he'll ever be able to play by those rules by the way he was talking. And I don't think it was arrogance or anything like that. If anything, he actually strikes me as a somewhat shy person who might be stuck in his ways because he's uncomfortable coming out of his shell. He's figured out how to work that way, and that's works for him, and it's gotten him over massively. But maybe trying other things outside the box is outside of his wheelhouse. So you got to kind of accept that you got to let Keith Lee be Keith Lee. And, put him in check if he thinks he's got to win all the time or he's better than everybody. But, if you're trying to use him as a lump of clay and mold him into something that you want him to be, it's gonna be oil and water. It's just not going to work. So hopefully it works out better for him in AEW. And hopefully, he gets a fair shake, and hopefully his ego doesn't get the best of him all at the same time.
Oh yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Yeah, and you can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on the channel. Oh yeah, dig it.